car since I've owned it. It eats drive shafts. We've kind of helped it with a one-piece drive shaft, taking all the parts from a two-piece and making a one-piece. That was a big improvement, but that's only a band-aid. The real problem is axle wrap. This is how we're going to fix it. This right here in question is a ladder bar. It's very similar to a track bar. Now, we could always make our own. We're going to do that for the International. But you know what? On this truck, why don't we just use a store-bought part, modify it slightly, and make it work? I think this is actually more like an 8-body Chevrolet at the end of the day, but should work on the Ford just fine. So, let's fix the issue that's been plaguing us since day one. Let's get rid of the axle wrap. Welcome to Hi-Ho Stable Garage. All right, so these are the two track bars, as you can see, and we don't have the bushing for here, but what I do have are spare bushings for the 2003 F-150. We don't need them because we're doing other mounts, but we have these spare bushings here. We got this collar tube. I'm basically just gonna cut that guy off, and we're gonna run these nice big bushings instead. Should help, keep this guy alive. So what we're gonna do is I am going to try to make U-bolts for the bottom. But first off, I'm going to grab one of these guys. We're going to go underneath. I'm going to kind of show you what the plan is. All right, so this is kind of what we got going on there. I'm going to put it between. That's where I kind of figured it's going to be best there. We're a little long here, and I kind of want it to be in line with that axle. I could extend it. That is also an option. I'm going to figure out which one I want to do. But it's going to U-bolt right where it is, right in between. I just got to grind that little saddle down a little bit because, again, A-body Chevrolet, it's a little bit different on the axle. So we got to modify it just slightly for that. Make some U-bolts there. Then we'll make a bracket at the end for the lock. But the main priority is the U-bolts. Figure out what we're going to do with the main arm and then the attachment point. I might actually just extend it and then use the attachment point up here. We'll figure it out. We'll see what we want to do. We got lots of options, and I'm sure we're going to figure it out. So give me a couple more minutes. I'll come back with a solid plan, and we'll go from there. So you guys can likely see what's going on here. We got a big extension piece, and then we got our bushing piece. I got it all squared up there, centered up the best I could. We got it shimmed up so it's in line with everything. Everything should be good there. So what we're gonna do, we don't even have to really chase this tube and make it round at the end. The gap's only about 1/8 inch, and what does Puddin's Fab Shop say? Mama ain't raised no punk, so our welder can jump gaps. It's just one of its super abilities there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to weld this guy in, make sure that he's trued up. Same thing, I'll bring you guys back when we join it to the ladder bars. We're just going to do butt welds for now, and then if we need to, we'll plate over. It's going to be pretty darn slick, if you don't say so myself. So, let's get at it. No time like the present. All right, so we got these guys ground down there. We got the old, I don't know, instead of a stack of dimes, I would say a stack of sponges, but that's okay. We're gonna be grinding these down anyway, because this truck is not an exposed weld truck, so that's fine by me. The old saying goes, if you can't weld good, weld lots. So, we got the extension pieces, they are both done. These are both done. So now, what we're gonna do is basically mate these two. What I'm thinking I'm gonna do is gently squeeze this guy in the vise, get him kind of to this size right here, butt weld the two, then we'll plate it at the end. I think that's gonna work out pretty darn slick. right, so now that we got the rough track bar all kind of set up, I need to reinforce this guy, and kind of keeping with the theme, we're gonna reuse the old pieces of the track bar. Like there's the other one over there. They're basically some big old flat bars, really, at the end of the day. That's gonna look good. And then we're also gonna plate it on the bottom. Ooh, that was hot. But either way, then we're gonna plate it on the bottom as well. And that should keep this whole thing nice and strong. That way we have no issues down the road. Plus, it'll make it look nice. And that's half the battle. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna clean up both of the flat bars, basically. Get them all sanded down, same as this guy, because we need it super, super clean for this part. Then we can kind of fill in and seam weld and that kind of stuff. And then this track bar is gonna be done for this portion. We'll do the other one, and then we'll revisit this guy because we've got a little bit more things we gotta do initially before we even start mock-up. Either way, it's all coming together. Can't wait. It's working out some sweet. All right, so the plan is kind of to do, because it's 7.5, we'll do 3.5 on one side and then 3.5 on the other. Nice and easy, just like so. We'll weld it first to the track bar, the original one, and then we'll just heat it, hit it down, and then we can work and weld it onto our pipe. As long as we get it squared up fine, we're gonna be in the clear. That's 3.5, awesome. Let's weld her on. Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to weld about the last inch on this guy, and then we're going to heat it right in the center and hit it down. And then that should flatten it out considerably. We'll leave the center section, and then we'll weld it all in. Should be all set. There, that's not too shabby at all. We're just gonna give it a quick grind down, nothing too drastic, just get kind of the splatter gone. And then even with a little bit of porosity, the way that we gusseted this guy, I have no worries. This thing's gonna be strong enough for what we're gonna dish out to it. No issues at all. So we'll just clean them up real quick with the grinder, nothing fancy, and then send it out. Let's do another one. All right, so pretty straightforward. It's time to recreate this fella with that fella. We're gonna get this guy to the same stage that this one is, and then we'll bring you guys right back. Time-lapse time. All right, so there we go. We got the two track bars done, identical to the same point. So now what we have to do, we know we have to shave down this inner lip on both sides, and we're also gonna cut that guy off for now. I was gonna keep it and modify it on the truck, but I think it's gonna be best if we just lob it off for now and then we build our own after. So what we have to do right now is make our U-bolts, cut this down, and cut that off. But first, we're just gonna shave this guy down a little bit and then cut that guy off right there. Let's get at it. All right, so now that they're slim and trim, again, we're gonna be building new braces off of this guy. but we'll likely build those when they're on the truck, just so we can get them exact. Because these are one of those items that, you know, when you're building them off the truck and you're putting them on, they're going to end up going on and off, on and off, on and off until they're finally painted, all that stuff. So now what we got to do, we got to put those bushings in those ends. These little fellows right here are actually just 2003 F-150. They're the bottom control arm bushings. I had a couple extra. It makes sense to use them in here. They're very easy to obtain, all that stuff. And, you know, they're pretty darn tough. So they're going to work just great for those eyelets. Now, we got to press these in because, you know, they don't just slide right in there, fellas. Got some anti-seize. We're going to coat the bushing. We're going to coat the inside. We're going to use this here vise and squeeze them right in. I think that's going to work just dandy. So, let's get it to the size that we need, which is a lot, actually, because this has to be the length of that end cap and the length of the bushing, all said and done. We'll wipe off the excess because this stuff, you know, seems to get everywhere. There we go. And there's pretty much no way around it. You're gonna get messy. And I think we're all set up. So, I'm gonna try to hold this the best I can. And we're gonna try to Zeus them into the vise here while holding it, while turning it. It's quite a dance at the end of the day. There we go. Okay, so we bottomed out. There. Yes, sir. That worked out just dandy. One bushing. Right, so I went and got my spare U-bolts here. I'm just kind of lining them up, and as you can see, the bracket is wrong on this guy for the exact 8.8 U-bolts that I needed. So, and if you notice, it's actually too long on the sides. So this plan right here, as it stands, isn't going to exactly work. So what I'm going to have to do is lengthen these U-bolts up and likely just make a new, to tell you the honest truth. Because there was a universal fit at the very beginning, or this GM 10 1/4 or whatever it was, you know, was slightly a different spec, which it kind of seems like that's the case. So what I'm going to have to do is fiddle around. Give me a couple seconds. I'm going to kind of make a decision, and I'll bring you guys back. So it took me a while to figure out exactly the mounting system. I went over to the truck like 4 or 5 times. Nothing was really working out because I can't use the U-bolts. Won't work. It's just we don't have the space coming down. Plus, they're slightly different, and I don't want to end up drilling it, you know, because this uses basically a contact patch to hold it from moving around. And as long as we can clamp it good enough, it should be okay. There shouldn't be any issues there. So, come over here. I cut up a piece of pipe. It's a decent sized pipe. This fella right here. Cut up him into 4 sections. And then I got a couple sections of flat bar. Same coincide in shape. Got to clean them up and everything. But the idea is, it's going to go around the exhaust. I got to weld 2 ears on this. And then we got to drill the 2 holes. And then instead of U-bolts, we're just going to use regular bolts. I think that's going to work out decent for exactly what we need to do with this guy. So we'll just use regular bolts. It should be okay. And that will be how we're going to secure it for now. Don't get too crazy. But just for now, on the truck. We might weld a bar from arm to arm. Haven't figured that out yet. But we'll go from there. We'll see how it goes on. No problems there. No sweat. So that's the idea anyway. That's kind of what we got going on. So I am got to clean these guys up. Weld them to this guy. Make sure that they're the same length, all that good stuff. And then after that, then we can hopefully do a test mount on the truck and then start worrying about our bracket up here. Should be pretty good. Oh, side note. This guy's loose, remember? I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to press him back out, cut about an 1/8 inch off this steel, close it back up, weld it, press him back in. We should have no issues. That's the good plan. That's the new plan. We're going to try both of them out and see just what happens. Idea, we're gonna put this here, right, and then the bolts go in like so, and then these bolts coincide like that, and that sandwiches on top of the axle. Might have too long of bolts, who really knows, but that's the idea anyway. So that's how that's gonna hold that just kind of around until we get our bracket system set up and everything. But that should work out pretty darn slick. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go outside, try it on the truck. I'm gonna put them on, maybe put a jack stand under it or something, see just how it looks. And if it's up to my liking, I'll bring you guys in and I'll show you guys. So you guys are likely wondering what's going on. I'm starting to make the brackets for the truck side. These basically slide over these fellas right here, hold it down. So I got one clamped up in here, but what I gotta do, I just gotta plate this guy real quick, nice and good, so he's super strong. We're gonna have no issues with that. So I'm just gonna weld him in, the bushing is kind of holding it, and then I can relieve the pressure off that. And then all we gotta do is basically bolt the plate onto the truck side, and then that's gonna kind of curl over, and we're gonna weld that guy direct on there. And then he should be good. So we'll bolt to the truck, weld that plate onto this, and we should be all set. So that's the plan anyway. So without further ado, start welding these guys up. I got 2 to do, and then we can go back outside to the truck and kind of see where this guy lands. Well, there you go, fellas. That's all we really have for today. For you guys, it's just gonna jump, a couple hours. For me, I'm gonna go to bed. But that's what we got going on the track bar. We got our mounting now for the axle. We got half of our mounting done for the actual truck. The main track bar is done, other than I gotta take a little chunk out of that guy, squish them together, make sure that bushing has a little bit less, play in it. That should be easy to do. So tomorrow, what we have to do, we have to figure out a secondary mounting on the truck, but first we have to get these tight on the truck. Because I can't really make a secondary mount until the main bracket here is done. Half of it's done already. Bolt that, and then we can figure out, are we gonna do a detachable crossbar that goes from one to the other, links them both together? Are we gonna do one that goes to the shock mount? I think we're gonna do that. Just end up taking the bolt out of the shock, adding a couple inches, and then it will go through the mount that we make on this. I think it's all gonna come together, guys. These are really, really overbuilt, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it fixes our issue. I'll see you guys in about, 12 hours. All right, got a nice 20-degree cold start, the old shorty. Let's get her going. Oh yeah, shouldn't even need too much pedal pressing or anything like that. Turn that guy on, let the fuel pump run a little bit. Give her a few, hasn't started since yesterday. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, so I just got done. I cut about 1/8 inch out of this hoop, out of this loop, and then squished them back together, re-welded them. Just got to bang them out just a little bit to re-roundify them, just a couple of smacks with the hammer down. But that should snug the bushing a lot lot better. That way, you know, grabs the way it should. That's the idea anyway. So I'm just gonna give this a couple smacks, let them cool off. Then Annie sees the living daylights out of both bushings, press them all together. Should be all there we go, fellas. I don't even have to cut this guy off. I don't even got to grind it down. It can clear fine. But now you can't even rotate the bushings inside their housings anymore. So we got the fitment just right on these fellas, and that's exactly what we wanted. So the arms are almost done, other than that secondary bracket that has to go on. But what we have to do now is we have to basically bolt this guy on, figure out exactly where this guy's going, drill a pilot hole in, and then we got to make a plate. And the idea is it's going to sit on the truck, something like that, on the bottom of the frame. It'll have one bolt going through the flange wherever it lands, and then we'll make a 4-bolt plate that will come down, and then we'll clearance that plate to match this guy, weld it on the truck, then take it all off, finish weld, whatever we need to do. And that completes the initial mounting. We just got to go for the secondary mounting on the back. So I'll meet you guys over at the truck. I forgot my tripod today, so I don't got that fella, sorry to say. But I'll put it on the truck, and then I'll bring you guys in when we're doing our planning. Anyway, let's do that. All right, so what I ended up doing, I took this Sharpie here, and we sat it up against the frame, just like so. It's a little bit outside of the frame where it mounts up, so in order to keep it in line, I'm spacing it out like this. And then the idea is we'll make a secondary plate right where the center of the camera is, where those 2 bolts are. That's going to bolt in, and then we're going to weld it, seam weld it on the side, and that's going to hold it on. Additionally, with a bolt on the inside, this is going to be my locator bolt for both sides right here, this little fella. It's going to be the same on both sides of the truck. So I marked it by putting a Sharpie up inside exactly where I wanted it to be. So I'm going to take this guy off, I'm going to recreate it with this, and then we're going to drill the truck to a bigger bolt. I'm thinking like a 3/4 inch bolt here and a 3/4 inch bolt here. We'll do it to the other side, and then we should be able to bolt the other side on and do a mock bolt up. And then we got to take the additional bracketry off on this guy, make our 4-bolt plate, which is likely going to be 3/4 inch bolts. And then that guy will get welded to this. Lots of steps, but we are coming close to it. So that's what we're gonna do. Just give me a little bit of time. I gotta undo this. I'm gonna drill the 2 holes, and then I'll bring you guys back. So that's kind of what they look like, you know, in their unfinished state. Just got the 1 bolt holding them on. This is what I mean for the brackets. So we're gonna have to take this guy off. Just gonna make a plate that goes around, and then we'll come down here and we'll weld it along this seam once everything's tight. That's the idea anyway. But yeah, should be pretty darn slick. Pretty darn slick indeed. So this right here is hopefully gonna allow us to eliminate the wheel hop once and for all. That's the mission anyway. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tighten these guys up. I'm gonna blow this bracket off because we can't have him there. I'm gonna measure out, make a plate, and the plate again, it's gonna bolt like 1, 2, 3, 4, likely right to this joining piece here, and it's gonna curl down. And that's gonna be welded there and there. It's gonna give us tons of structure. That's the idea anyway. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So give me a moment. I'm gonna do that there, and then I'll bring you guys back. All right, so what I have here are the brackets, the support brackets for these guys. How these work, quite simply, they go on like so, and this is bolted to the truck. This is gonna have 4 bolts in it. I already got them marked out. They're kind of off in different locations than you would think, just because of how bolts are on the frame. And then it will get seam welded to this bracket. In theory, everything should work out just fine. That's the idea anyway. So what we're gonna do from here, we're gonna basically bolt this guy to the truck. I'm gonna drill out the holes. I'm gonna see you guys again when I got it tacked on to this guy, because at the end we're gonna have to make a triangle gusset. Not a big deal, but either way it has to be all welded in. Let's get at it. So there you go, guys. That's the idea that we got going on here anyway. I'm gonna weld, and then at the end I think we're gonna do 1 triangle just like so, and maybe a small one, but likely just the 1. And then that should complete the front mount. We got another side to do, so no time like the present. I'm gonna weld that guy in. I gotta drill the bottom one on that side over there, maybe move some fuel line and stuff. Gotta figure that guy out, but not a big deal. I still gotta put the other arm on that side so we can get that mocked up. Anyway, I'll see you guys back when this is welded in, and we'll go from there, but I'll likely add that triangle. All right, so I got both track bars installed, rough installed. That's kind of the rough bracket. What we have to do now is unbolt everything, take it all off again, so then I can basically finish weld and paint. I kept thinking about brackets here at the back, right? There we go. Brackets here at the back. And I'm running through numbers, and it's super easy just to weld a tab onto the axle, weld a tab onto the axle, and then weld a tab onto the arm, bolt it together. Done. Well, you see, we do plan on lowering this eventually, and eventually might be as soon as next year, might be as soon as 2 years. It's hard to tell. If we weld anything on this axle, when we lower it and bring it down, it's going to rotate at rest. If I make a bracket right now off of it, I'll likely have to cut it off down the road and put another one. So what we're going to elect to do is simply just use our straps, see if they work out. Also, it gives us a good run down on the actual system. Do we need a crossbar? Do we need tabs? Or can we really just get by with that? We're going to see, but I'm going to unbolt it, finish weld it, and I'll bring you guys back when we're painting. All right, so we got everything off, all the main systems. Brackets are fully welded on. Just letting them cool off. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hook on the old def wheel, the porcupine wheel, the wire wheel on the grinder, and we're just going to start grinding off paint, all that stuff. Get them pretty spick and span. They don't have to be perfect because they're going to be beat on anyway. And then we're just going to do a quick bit of primer, quick bit of black, back under the truck. And this time for good. All right, so after 3 days of solid welding and work and all that stuff, we got some homemade brackets, homemade attachment points, and some heavy duty ladder bar / traction bar. Tell you honest truth, I don't know the main difference between the traction bar and a ladder bar. The best of my knowledge is ladder bar is solid mount one side, and then a track bar is bushed on one side and bushed on the other with a mount. So this should fall under a ladder bar setup, just the way that it is. But I'm not sure the specifics. Either way, I'm gonna wash them all up, and then we're gonna prime them, paint them, put them on the truck. You guys will see them when they're on the truck next. Well, guys, it ended up getting pretty darn dark, not gonna lie. But we got them on. Gotta do a little bit of touch-ups because, you know, we waited a little too. We put them on too early before, you know, they fully set the paint. But we'll bring you guys back in the morning because, you know, you can't make a track bar, ladder bar video without doing a whole bunch of burnouts. But we're not gonna do it in the middle of the night. You won't see anything. But yeah, check it out anyway. Oh yeah. Aggressive, very aggressive. But either way, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Let's take a look at how the truck looks in the sun. It's kind of what we got going on from the back there. I think it would look better with a big old crossbar going from one to the other, but that's just me. But it still looks pretty mean. Profile is where it's at though. Whew. Look at that thing. That looks mean. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we go. Goes right over to the wheels. You can't make a track bar video, as I said, without trying out the track bar. So that's exactly what we're going to go do. So, Mike, do you think this is hot supper certified? What do you think?
I'm excited and I'm ready.
Do you think the track bars are going to do it?
They're going to do it.
Okay.
They're going to do the job that they're intended for.
Or will it blow the drive shaft up one more time? Time to find out. No time like the present. We might as well, you know, just try it.
yeah, we did a little bit of experimentation with this. The rear end locks up nice. As you saw, we really, went aggressive with it. Right to redline, right off the limiter on a whole bunch of stuff. And it did really good. We didn't want to burn off this set because this is my good summer set. We couldn't find the burners. They're somewhere. We just don't know where they are. But the track bars did exactly what their job is. So now we can have a little bit of fun abusement time for the old Ford. It's going to be great. Got to eat an RX-7 when it comes out. If it comes out. You never know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And we'll catch you guys in the next one really, really soon. All right. See ya.
Ooh, track bars. Ooh.